Okay, welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast, the PGA edition. It is early February. We're just a couple days removed from an awesome Super Bowl. I guess how awesome sort of depends on which side you were on, and we'll get into that. But really excited to talk about this week's AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Pretty awesome tournament. And as usual, I will introduce my co-hosts, Peter, Jennings, and Colin, Davy. Colin, I'm pretty sure that you said that you were rooting for the Falcons, so I'm sorry, but I'm sure you enjoyed the Super Bowl nonetheless.
I mean, it was a neutral root for sure. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty gut-wrenching to watch. It was like, it's Tom Brady beats the world again. What else can you say? It's kind of like, all right, it's going to happen. But, yeah, congrats to the first overtime Super Bowl and all of that stuff. Also, a very begrudging congratulations to Pete for finally getting on our weekly winner scoreboard with Matsuyama taking down the Farmers Insurance Open.
Yeah, a good tournament. I mean, it's a good weekend of sports for sure.
It was, for sure, across the board. I mean, again, just like you said, depending on which way you're rooting. Pete, I'm sure you had plenty more rooting interest with props. How'd props treat you Super Bowl weekend? And did you take the under on the anthem, more importantly?
No, nothing on the anthem. Player props did return a positive ROI, which is amazing because I was fading no two-point conversion attempt, no two-point conversion, no missed extra point, which is obviously correlated with those, no overtime, all these things that ended up hitting. But basically all the unders on the player props were really good. Had no exposure to James White, so certainly was interesting. Definitely was rooting for the Falcons for a variety of reasons, but yeah, great game, historic game. Brady's, cemented himself as the greatest quarterback, probably greatest football player ever. Belichick, in my mind, was already hands down the best coach of all time. But now you can't really argue at all. So, yeah, if you're a Patriots fan, I've spent time in Boston, and certainly, they're having a good time right now out there in Boston. So, fun times and definitely shocking game for sure.
Shocking, yeah. It's got to go down as one of the best ever. Really cool to watch. Any last thoughts on Phoenix Open before we move to this week's AT&T? Obviously, Pete, you picked Matsuyama to win, so we'll give you some credit there. But just maybe not stuff we've learned, but I guess, Pete, did you get a chance to watch it? I guess this is just the story of Matsuyama continuing this torrid run through the end of last year and continuing this year. He's just been incredible.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, when we started the year, I thought he'd be one of the top 5 guys. And, right now, if you want to take him in the Masters, he's the same price essentially as Dustin Johnson and Jason Day and a lot of guys. So not that surprising to me. Certainly the one strong stance, I guess, I had on like a top-tier player. But, yeah, I definitely feel fortunate that I'm on the board with you guys. I'm sure you guys will have some victories coming up here soon. In terms of DFS, I had Matsuyama 70% in tournaments.
Ooh, nice.
I had Steele at 65, and I had Webb Simpson as my next highest at 45, and I lost money. So I don't really know what happened. Yeah, let me see if I can go back and see that.
By accident, one of those has to.
I know, that's brutal. Just, yeah.
No, because
Simpson and everything.
Let me go back here. Let me see what else I had here. It was, everyone else was just a disaster.
Yeah.
Ches Reavie missing the cut just sank every lineup. I didn't have a single 6 of 6 out of 150 lineups. So that was not ideal.
How much DJ did you end up with?
Oh, here we go. I got it all. Here's the exposures. And I lied. I had 64% Matsuyama, 64% Steele, 50% Watson, who missed, 44% Webb Simpson, 40% Finau, 38% Knox, 36% Grillo, 36% Castro, and then Reavie and all these other guys who just –
man.
Yeah. I don't know how you missed, though, with Matsuyama, Steele, and Webb Simpson as through your top 4 guys.
Yeah. The answer is everyone else. That's just like losing to a runner almost. All right, Pete, here's my takeaway from the Phoenix Open, and I'll issue that because now I found a nemesis to your Russell Knox, his fellow Scotsman Martin Laird. I'll take you in a heads-up Laird versus Knox for the rest of the year by whatever measure of success you want. I see the signs. I'm ready to tell.
I like Laird a lot, and actually, my wife's cousin's husband knows Martin Laird really well. So
You're basically related.
basically related. Yeah, he was talking about it, and I was texting him about Laird this last weekend, and he's really turned the corner. So we'll see.
So he doesn't want any of your action.
Fight out of that one.
I know.
I'm excited because I'm like, finally we'll have dueling Scotsmen for the rest of the year. But no, you're open to it.
I can't go against him. I mean, and the most frustrating part is obviously you guys know I'm an avid golfer, and my wife's cousin's husband, he's like a +1, so he just kicks my ass every time. Even if I get like a stroke a hole versus him, I still lose. So it's just it's a disaster. But
I'll work fine at finding a new head-to-head rest of the year success bet next week. Maybe we'll get that.
I'll take Matsuyama versus maybe Day or something. Who did I suggest earlier? Matsuyama versus someone I wanted to take versus you? I can't remember.
Yeah, versus like a Spieth or something like that. I'm like, no, I don't hate that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Spieth has been playing well though, so I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we're gonna find a rest of the year head to head. That's the goal for February. Everybody just get your rest of the year bets in.
Yeah, well, we'll figure those out. Spieth is in this field, and we'll get right into it. So it's again the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. It is pretty top heavy here. We have Spieth, we have Jason Day, Dustin Johnson are both in the field and looking to bounce back from disappointing weeks last week, both missing the cut at Torrey Pines. Phil Mickelson's in this tournament. Patrick Reed, another top 10 guy. So definitely a pretty loaded field here. Just some quick notes. This tournament's played at 3 different courses. Obviously Pebble Beach Golf Links, but also the Monterey Peninsula Golf Course and Spyglass Hill Golf Course. These are all in California. So it's sort of interesting in that they play one at each for the first 3 days, and then they finish up again at Pebble Beach on Sunday. So if you're sort of analyzing courses, we'll get into that in just 1 second with Colin. You sort of have to look at all 3 with a little more weight on Pebble Beach since the guys will finish up there. It is sort of unique in their cut is the cuts after 3 days is the top 60 golfers plus ties. So we got into that. I think we were saying it was the Career Builder Challenge where they had a cut after 3 days. So similar to that tournament. But Colin, with the 3 different tournaments, we've sort of dealt with this a little bit. And we've just sort of just done it by aggregation. What are your thoughts on how to measure golfers in course history at this tournament?
So the way we did it at Career Builder was, you just treat the tournament and kind of see who does better or worse overall over the 4 days. And at Career Builder, we had kind of a weaker course fit. We actually have a pretty decent one here. It kind of comes out a little bit like last week, like Phoenix, where like it's a little mixed. You kind of get like good fit. Basically, if you're really good at one thing, you'll have a positive fit. That being said, if I had to take a single type, it'd probably be bombers or drivers or total driving bomber. Pick whatever driving distance you want or driving metric you want. But I would favor distance over accuracy here, given the people that are popping. No penalty to bad putters or anything like that bad, but you'll definitely need some distance to compete here. Pete, does that round out with what you know about these 3 courses?
Yeah, I think distance is certainly important. Par 5 scoring is going to be massive, which it is a lot of times when there's, a lot of par 5s with the way DraftKings scoring is set up. So with you on that, obviously the courses, the air is heavy. It's, there's a lot of tough shots. So in terms of length. So I agree with that. And the weather here is definitely going to be a factor as well. So pay attention to that, especially with the winds, which I think could be a pretty big factor this weekend.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, just so people don't have to go listen back, if you've been listening, we've sort of given our thoughts on weather and the importance of things, but, we could just quickly touch on it. I think we are in the camp that wind is much more of a factor than water, than the rain. So definitely check that and make sure that, the guys you're looking at aren't on, super windy tee times. Is that what you're going to say, Colin?
Yeah, it was more that the tee times are a little bit tougher here because you don't have it's a little bit harder because, with your normal Thursday, Friday cut on a single course, you can just do like a wind differential off of the tee times and you don't have to worry about different courses and different exposures to winds. So that makes it a little bit tougher here. I think the wind differential maybe comes out as more of a wash here, given that it's on 3 courses. You could really try to split hairs and guess, like, does Pebble Beach have more wind exposure than Spyglass or Monterey or any of the other ones? I don't think that's a strong angle. I think the simpler angle for this week is it is going to be windy across the board. Higher wind is just higher randomness, and higher randomness means that heavy favorites aren't as heavy favorite. So if there's ever a time to fade heavy favorites, it would probably be now, because like the wind basically makes it more of anyone's game than if it were under calm conditions.
Yeah, Pete, anything to add there before we move on about the weather? I know that we sort of doing this early in the week. We always, we can give some general tips, but really it's like Wednesday night, Thursday morning. You really got to figure this stuff out. Yeah,
well, right now it looks like the weekend might be a little better. And I did have a question for Colin. Theoretically, if we knew that, let's say that Saturday for sure was going to be much better weather conditions, and we do know something about these courses, I think Spyglass is the toughest. Would you want your guys playing the toughest course with the least amount of wind, or would you prefer to have them on a harder course where they're on the easier courses, potentially on a better scoring day? Which would you prefer?
Oh, that is a great question, and the honest answer is I don't know. I need actual numbers to back that up.
The consensus I've heard is that people say they think it's better to have the guys playing Spyglass, the tougher course, in the better conditions, which for cut making, maybe there's an argument for that. But with the way DraftKings scoring set up, I would assume you'd rather have your guys out there, in better environment where they can make more birdies and eagles, et cetera. But I'm not really sure.
If I had to go on a side, I would pick that one. Yeah. But like that's just almost a hunch. It's almost like there's diminishing marginal penalties or something, where it's like tough course versus tough course and bad weather. It's not like people are going to be putting up like triple bogeys and just like complete birdie avoidance. It's like, yeah, I think that if there's an edge to be found, it would be play the easy courses in good weather because of the weights of how birdies are scored.
That's my lean too, but I don't have a lot of conviction on that. And this isn't something that comes up a ton because we don't have, a lot of tournaments where you're playing 3 courses.
Yep, I agree. It's almost like a tiebreaker for me.
This is probably a really dumb question. Do they set up the golf courses to be a little bit easier, since it is like there's celebrities and amateurs and all that stuff playing?
Yeah, I can add that. They do a couple things. The rough is supposed to be a little easier. I mean, you got guys like Bill Murray out there, and you got my boy Peyton Manning being caddied by Brandon Stokely. So huge shout out to Brandon, fellow Colorado guy, helped with DFS, fun golfer as well to play with. But he is caddying for Peyton Manning. Long spiel here on my boy. But yeah, they don't want those guys going out there and taking 3 shots out of the rough, just like trying to get it out of there. They want them to have some sort of a chance. So they're not going to make this as hard as, this is Pebble Beach for the US Open. They would be doing everything they could to put a huge penalty for going into the rough, and they'd make the course even harder. So it's definitely not that. And certainly, the assumption, I've heard a lot of speculation that there's not as much of a penalty for, hitting into the rough as there might be in other tournaments, in the same courses, i.e. the US Open.
Distance being important, so
or
like distance popping. So I would buy that.
Yeah.
Yep, because the distance guys, there's not as much of a penalty for going long into the rough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, let's dive right into our pick. So we'll break it up into tiers like we normally do. We usually start with the bottom tier. We go min price, and then we'll hit the middle one, and then finish with the top golfers. And there, it is pretty loaded this week. So I'm sure that we'll be able to sort through that. Colin, I'll jump to you to do this bottom tier. Let's go min price through 7,000. So up to 7-1 would be the cutoff here.
All right. So we have to go under. So it's 7 and under, or not under 7?
7 and under. Yeah, just because the min price is usually $6K, but there's no $6K golfers. It's 6.4. So I'm expanding it up a little bit.
So top in this tier, and this is going to be probably unsurprising, everyone here, is going to be Shane Lowry, who I think is going to be like one of the chalkiest plays of the week. I mean, he was 9,300, or he's in the 9,000s last week. I mean, he still had a decent showing, but that's a huge price drop. I think people are just gonna I don't see him as necessarily a 7K golfer, but I think people are gonna latch onto that. I think it's gonna be the highest owned here. If you want to move off of this tier, I don't have a whole lot of conviction as far as like value plays outside of Lowry here. I think most of it's in the mid tier. We seem to say that every week, but I think it's probably the most it's ever been. If you want to go a couple guys here, Robert Garrigus continues to remain my favorite sub 7K player. Decent at cut making, definitely has the distance here, not terrible course history relative to his ability, and continues to just be under-owned in every single GPP. I'm probably going to be firing on him a while in GPPs, especially given his ownership, and it's easy pivot off of Lowry. The other guys that I could maybe fire on are Steve Stricker and Robert Streb. Stricker has no course history here. It's not a great fit, but he's just one of those old guys that doesn't put in a whole lot of volume. So his, OWGR ranking might be a little bit low, but when he does play, he kind of has that Furyk-esque, like, all right, he can put up a round for sure. And then Streb has kind of a decent combination of fit and history here. Not, the greatest showing last week, but, I can remember when he was 9,300. So after that, I mean, I would say Ryan Palmer, but I think he's also going to be pretty heavily owned at this price. And he's had a drop off to boot. So, I prefer everybody that I just mentioned to him. So those are my subs. Those are my 7 and under guys. Pete, I'm sure Lowry's popping for you. Anyone else you want to bring up?
Dude, you stole all the picks as per usual. If I was going to ask about Palmer, what you thought at 7K, I think we'll see with the ownership where he is.
I think it's fade across the board between ownership and the fact that I prefer everyone else I named above him.
Yeah, I've seen people playing Bryson DeChambeau lately, which is funny. I probably won't be on him at all.
I don't need to say anything twice about Bryson at this point. But.
Yeah, the only guy who's rating really well that I don't really like, but I'm trying to figure out why he's rating so well in my model, maybe it's driving distance and recent green regulation stuff, is Martin Flores. I don't know. That's the only guy you didn't name. I think the chalk answer is definitely Lowry. I mean, you look at the price drop that he's had, went from 9K to 7,800. Now he's 7K. I mean, that's just a straight down drop in price. And yeah, he didn't play fantastic last week, but he's just too cheap right now. So I think he'll end up being the chalk answer and definitely a cash game play. Steve Stricker is interesting. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot of people going balanced this week. And if the win conditions are like what we're anticipating, I think that makes a lot of sense as well. So I'm not thrilled with this range.
I don't think people are going to go that balanced, actually, but we'll get into that in the mid-tier. By the way, I don't hate Flores in a vacuum. It's really small sample size. Not even enough to pop a course fit for me. So that's the only buyer beware. But, otherwise, I don't hate it. Nobody's going to be on him for sure. So, maybe fire off a flyer or two. Use him as a pivot, swap out, for Lowry if you just want to go pure ownership.
Yeah, I shouldn't say balance, but, you can make a lot of lineups where you have, Rahm, Mickelson, Rose. I feel like that 9K tier is just going to get hammered. So
really, I don't know. I still think that. Well, all right. Well, we'll save it.
Spieth will be owned. Spieth and DJ will be owned, but yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about it here in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Colin, I'm curious. A guy like Ryan Brehm, who has a lot of good stuff in the models. Really long golfer. He's actually number 5 in the model, 4 or 5 as far as par 5 scoring, which we think is going to be important. The thing about him is just lower field score, and I think you've harped on that. Is if you just don't play in good enough tournaments, you're just getting X'd out of your model.
Yeah, it's not even X'd out. It's discounted. I mean, he's kind of hovering around the spot where he's getting a decent sample size at other places, and now that he's gotten some tour events, eventually he'll have a good enough sample size where his field score will adjust naturally. But I've mentioned him before on a couple other podcasts this year. I don't hate the fact that he's popping in models. I just need a little bit more data to have maybe a solid go or no go. I also have him as being really low owned, so kind of for the same Flores reason, I don't hate it as a flyer.
I don't hate it either. I think it's reasonable.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's move to this next tier, and maybe we'll break this up into four, just so you guys can discuss these 9K guys. What were you about to say, Colin?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So Pete, I'll start with you. Let's go through 7-1. So right just above the guys we mentioned, and we'll go up to 8K. So we'll include Gary Woodland here. So he's the only player priced at 8K.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I know. I have two. I want to get in before you make your picks. I have there are three big picks here. Two are going to be chalk, not including Woodland. Sorry, go ahead. I want to see if you can name them.
All right. Well, I think Woodland's going to be the chalkiest of the group.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Up to 8K. We're not including Finau, right? Just up to 8K.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I think the next chalk is probably going to be Adam Hadwin because he's been playing so well and people have seen the 59. I'm wanting to say I think Jim Furyk is going to be pretty heavily owned, and I think Kisner's the other one. I'm guessing Hadwin is probably the most owned. I like Kisner a decent bit. I'm curious your opinion on Furyk, and if I missed the other guy, maybe it's Chris Kirk, but I'm lost, Colin.
Dude, I even gave you the prequel hint and everything. Martin Laird at 7,100.
Mother fricker!
Yeah.
You know what my problem was?
That's an own goal. That is straight up on you.
You know what the problem was? I have my screen from at the top was 7,200, so I didn't look into the 7,100 guys.
That's good. All right, so and
Martin Laird's right there. Yeah, he's the highest rated for me out of all these guys.
Yeah. All right, so we can.
And if you sort by, I just did the ownership sorting thing, which would have been cheating. He's the highest predicted ownership.
Yeah. So all right. Well, all right. So you got the. All right. So go ahead. So all right. So what are your picks?
I like Martin Laird a lot.
Yeah.
I like Hadwin a decent bit, but I'm starting to – I don't know. I'm not – it's interesting that his price hasn't gone up that much. If you're buying recent form, I mean, the guy's playing just incredible. So he's also been scoring really well on par fives, which makes me intrigued by him. The other guy that I didn't mention that I actually like who's rated really well for me is Sean O'Hare. That's the guy that I definitely would be firing in tournaments more so than a lot of these guys with ownership factored in. But – yeah, I think Hadwin's really interesting. Furyk, I definitely need Colin's opinion on. I can make a case for it, but I wish Furyk was longer for this specific course.
So, Pete, do you look like a guy like Hadwin? Do you look at why he's been good at par fives? Because he's not really long, but he's just been putting he's just a ridiculous putter right now. Yeah,
I mean it's not like he's short either. I mean his distance has come up in his recent form versus his long-term form too. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy's just playing lights out. I mean, he's in a totally different zone. I mean, shooting at 59, he could have easily won, got a second place, rallied back, didn't actually start the Phoenix Open that great, and then played really well down the stretch. Shot 66 on Sunday. Last year I was starting to dive into that a little bit. Maybe Colin, we can talk more about it, but buying the guys who play really well on Sunday the next week. I don't think there's much of an angle there, but I certainly think it's intriguing.
Yeah,
and his par five scoring has just been awesome. I like Hadwin's recent form is just so good. The Safeway Open was the last missed cut that's even relevant to me. Just started this year so hot, so I think he's interesting. I definitely like O'Hare, like I mentioned before. Love Woodland. Woodland's a guy that I think is a freaking awesome play. And outside of that, we'll see if Colin brings up his boys, Ches Reavie and Castro, too.
So you pretty much got my narrative for this mid-range down perfectly. I think Woodland, Laird, and Hadwin are all they're my favorite plays in this range, too. I also think they're going to be amazingly chalky. Same with Kisner for that matter. I
bet Kisner's less owned than Hadwin, and I bet he's less owned.
Yeah,
I bet he's less owned than Woodland. I think he's definitely less owned.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you hit my secret pivot play too. Sean O'Hare is definitely my favorite. Swap out any one of those guys. I think he's going to have half the ownership, and he's rating pretty much just as well. And it's all on course history.
That's O'Hare you're talking about?
Yeah, you pull up O'Hare. It's almost easy to miss, and this is why we have stuff like player models. You pull up O'Hare's like course history here, and even like, I mean, I know I have a 5-year window here, but he's made the cut every single time. He has decent like before that, if you believe that the course doesn't change, you want to expand your window and break my rules occasionally, which you're allowed to do if you don't agree with them. I think he's basically like in all formats. He's as a lock as you can get to make the cut, and it's just going to have half the ownership of all of those other guys. I think that's an ideal GPP pivot. The other one that I think nobody's going to be on, and it's going to have abysmal ownership right up there with them, is Stewart Cink. I think everybody's going to be priced off at 7,500 because everybody's going to flock to everybody that we mentioned. But like, the course history is like, all right, he had a decent showing last year, and outside of a missed cut at Career Builder Challenge, like, dude has started off the year with like so many top 10s, top 15s, like top 20. It's just like it's sneaky good. Old Man Cink is putting up numbers and nobody seems to be noticing because he's never been high owned. I don't think he's going to be that high owned. He's maybe like O'Hare and Cink are my favorite GPP pivots of the week. On your Furyk question, I don't like playing Furyk at all. I think he is going to be decently heavily owned. And I think there's going to be no performance to show for it between not that great history, not a good fit. And I give people a pretty decent penalty if you have a layoff of more than 8 weeks. He hasn't played since November, so we're on 12 now. It's kind of like when he was just coming back last year too, and there was some rust there too. I know he's a consummate professional. Maybe you have reason to believe that generic rust models don't apply to Furyk because, for maybe Vijay Singh-esque reasons, maybe he takes care of himself or whatever. But that 12-week layoff scares me a lot.
Total subjective things about Furyk. When I did that Tiger Jam thing, when I was fortunate enough to talk with Tiger a good bit about golfers, he said Furyk was hands down. He said Furyk and Vijay Singh were the hardest workers, but he said Furyk was just like obsessive to a whole nother level, which he admired. And the other subjective thing that we have to take into consideration a little bit is there's that stretch where he wasn't playing that well coming back, and then all of a sudden he shot that freaking 58 at the Travelers. So it's still lurking in there for sure with Furyk, but I agree with you. I don't think he's a great play. The distance isn't great. Obviously, the course history here is not fantastic. So I love a lot of other guys in the range. Definitely prefer O'Hare straight up in a vacuum to him. So I imagine I'll just be fading him.
On the subjective angle, do you think a work ethic necessarily translates into rust does not apply as much to people with good work ethic versus bad?
I definitely think it could be applicable in golf. I actually do.
It could be. I agree, but I'm just wondering if
identifying it so
is
hard.
It a lazy lunch pail narrative, or is that like is there actually something to that, like gun to your head?
I bet we could figure out. I bet there would be some data on maybe some guys because these PGA guys. I mean, they're living the dream relative to other professional athletes. And I know they have to work so hard in their craft, which is why they got there. But coming off some of these layoffs, some of these guys have been pretty lazy. And some guys, maybe that's not the case, and that would be, hard to quantify those guys. But then the ones who are workaholics on their game, I might be willing to look at that a little bit more. Like Vijay Singh, when he was coming around, like he was a really consistent golfer there. I'd have to look specifically into some of the numbers, but I would tend to lean taking the workaholic guy after a long break versus any of the other golfers. But yeah, that's very subjective.
I would agree, but like I can see like I'm just trying to catch that trope before it runs away unreasonably.
Yeah, and there's no way to quantify what I'm talking about. It's really, really tough. But with Furyk specifically, I think he still has it to a degree. I think that there's some great rounds still lurking, evidenced by that 58 that he shot last year, which is a huge deal considering, there could have been some big concerns if he's ever going to be the golfer that he once was. But yeah, in this particular spot, I think he's a pretty easy fade for me.
Okay, let's keep on moving. Let's break up this last little bit into two tiers. We'll save the top guys just for their own quick little conversation before we end. So let's go, Colin. I'll kick to you. Finau through Snedeker.
All right. So where's Snedeker at?
He's
10K.
Yeah. I just included him just because I figure he would.
All right. Who do I have at the
dismissal?
top? So who do I have at the top here? Actually,
Let me guess real quick who you have at the top here.
Mhm.
I'll guess after you.
Well, actually, I might be biased here. I was gonna say Justin Rose, but I think that can't be true. I'm gonna say it's Rahm or Mickelson.
All right, Brian, what's your guess?
Oh, I thought it was going to be Rose. Why wouldn't it be Rose?
Even I thought it was going to be Rose, but it actually is Mickelson. So Pete gets the
yeah.
Yeah, all right. And Mickelson is it's mostly off of Mickelson actually has surprisingly good fit here and decent history. Next up after him though is actually Patrick Reed, who has phenomenal course history. I think third in the field. Actually, interestingly enough, the best course history in the field here is Jimmy Walker, who is at the bottom of this range. And I think that just goes to show, I don't think I've ever been bullish on Walker ever, and not even best course history in the field can lift him to the top of this, even narrowly sliced tier that Bryan basically created for him to rise to the top, and he still can't even get there. So yeah, I guess he was never recommending Jimmy Walker in any format. But yeah, Mickelson and Reed are the top of this one. Both are on the strength of basically course history and fit.
What about scrambling? If you like Reed, because I've heard the small green narrative quite a bit. Do you buy that, and do you buy the scrambling potentially?
Sure. I'd buy that. I buy he has a good course fit, and it's with this kind of there's a bunch of different ways to get there in a mixed course or multi-course tournament. Then sure, I don't necessarily know what's popping, but sure, that could explain it. Rahm and Rose are just behind him. I was actually kind of surprised at how low Justin Rose popped here, but it really is because it's just that he the tiebreaker really is course history. He just doesn't have it as good as Reed and Mickelson. Rahm has none, but I think all four of these guys are going to have very similar ownership. I think the only one that has a chance of having slightly less here is Finau, who will have kind of low mid ownership. I don't know. Maybe it'll be even a little bit lower because if everybody's going to prefer Laird and Hadwin and all those other guys in the 7K range, maybe people just skip the 8.
So were you between you and Pete, were you the one that was down on the 9K range? Because I was expecting Rose to be the chalkiest guy in this.
I think Rose is going to be really heavily owned.
I think
based on what I've heard already.
Yeah. I think Rahm and Rose. Yeah, but I just figured I figured how heavy people are going to be in the 7K range. You have so much salary left over at that point, then you can roster the big guns really easily too.
That's fair. After going through the 7K range more in depth, I retract my argument a little bit. I do still think we'll see Rose, Rahm, Mickelson, even guys like Kuchar and Cash and JB will garner some ownership. Woodland. Now Patrick Reed, Woodland, I think is going to be really popular. Yeah. I just see people making a lot of lineups like that, but at the 7K range has the same argument. So in that regard, you can see people getting up to at least one of the studs, if not two, in some lineups. So yeah. The other argument I was going to make initially, which I guess is mitigated now, is just the price of the lowest guys is higher at 6,400 being the lowest price. But that is mitigated if there's a lot of good options in the low 7K range, which there are.
A lot of good options there.
Yeah. What do you do? So last week I was I wouldn't say I was tilted, but I was giving Colin a little bit of shit about Matt Kuchar because I opened up the 5K tournament and he's 60% owned. And I was I really like Kuchar off the bat. I'm interested to hear your opinion on him this week. I definitely don't like him as much this week, and especially since his prices come up. But more important than that, I know your reasoning last week was basically the bad results that he had to kind of end last year. But there was a long layoff, and Kuchar, historically playing DFS over the last couple of years with golf. The guy has never been in the 7Ks really. He's constantly been an 8K guy plus, and most of the time in the mid 9s, 9 to 9.5. I guess in the majors he'd be in the high 7s. But I was kind of surprised last week, Colin, just at the price of 7,400 that you weren't on him.
Yeah, I think it's because the two missed cuts when he was the heavy favorite in those tournaments were just that much devastating. it's almost like a diet Euro tournament event where like, how much a harp on, like if you miss the cut at Euro, that's death.
Yeah.
This is like somewhere in between like PGA and Euro. So like missing a cut there.
Safeway and the RSM just playing poorly at those is just so bad.
You're just not allowed to miss those cuts in order to have a decent rating. So
yeah, he was 11-5 at the Safeway and 11-2 at the RSM.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you miss those, like you're banished to 7K land. Like, and that's just like I that was consistent from a data perspective. Him being back up to 8,600, like I'm still bearish on him here for a bunch of reasons. No course.
I'm bearish too. Yeah.
Bad fit. Yeah, his price went up, but like it's not like it was a good result, but it wasn't like, like what we normally see to have someone jump like 8,600 in a much more top heavy, stronger tournament. Like I think his price jump is disproportionate to his results and the strength of the field this week. So I'm still fading him.
Yeah, I'm fading him for sure this week. I do think it's interesting. Something we can look into more down the road is, how much do you weight more their most recent results after it comes off a layoff? Because that's the one thing that I understand the logic completely. It makes sense. You miss cuts where you shouldn't in really weak fields. They should get knocked down a ton. But then you take a 2.5 month break. Maybe for someone like Kuchar, who's been so consistent throughout his career, I'd give him a little bit of a break. But yeah, I think that to me is one of the most interesting circumstances. I'm not trying to be results oriented, even though day one I certainly was in our other chat, just kind of complaining like a sore loser.
Yeah, that's a good kind of. It's almost like an interactive. Like I have rules for both of those instances. Like what do you weight? Like what do you weight generally? What do you weight after coming off a layoff? What do you weight how you have a layoff? There's definitely an interactive component to that data will struggle to capture because that's a very specific rule and trying to account for that.
Right.
Is like that's absolutely like probably like a potential model leak. So I'd be open to, I was unnecessarily bearish on Kuchar for that exact reason.
My only, not to go too long onto this. It's just really interesting because in a vacuum, if you had to guess in a field strength like Phoenix, and you put, obviously you can't do that because all these tournaments are different, but imagine you had, 15 tournaments that were very similar in a vacuum together. What do you think Matt Kuchar's average price would be this year?
Yeah, it'd probably be like low nines.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So that's the one really interesting thing, but he did have the kiss of death missing those cuts. And if the Phoenix Open would have been, hypothetically in early December, a week after, I think he would have been an auto fade with that bad stuff. And, yeah, the 2.5 month layoff is certainly a challenge for all of us going forward.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Any last thoughts on this tier, Pete?
No, I mean, I think I agree with that. I mean, John Rahm, we'll have to see how he plays again this week. I mean, I'm curious where he ends up in like this tier of golfers, like how good Rahm ends up being. I still have a feeling he might be slightly underpriced. I imagine he could be one of the top 7 or 8 golfers all year this year, but we'll see if that comes to fruition. It's definitely much more efficient at this point in time with the field strength, considering we have DJ, Spieth, and Day there. But I imagine he'll be pretty heavily owned. And curious to see how.
Even if he is underpriced, it's just so tough to capitalize because he's so massively popular every single week.
Right. There's no secret with him now. It's just like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is JB coming up for you? JB Holmes, Colin?
I mean, he's doing better, but yeah, I mean, my standard Holmes line is just like give me him at 7,400 like any day of the week, and then I'm there, I'm home. But
gosh, that British Open 6,500.
Oh man, I'm gonna
reminiscing about that. Right before that, just the 7K range the whole time. Yeah, it was fantastic.
7,400 at Augusta and a Bombers course.
After the British Open, though, man, he did fall off bad there for a stretch.
Oh no, did he ever? Yeah.
He's rebounded well though. Nicely looking at his game log, he's getting more consistent. And if you're going to take Bombers, I don't hate that call actually, Brian.
All it took was a rejuvenating Ryder Cup.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Let's finish up with this top tier here, Pete. I'll kick to you. Spieth, DJ, Day. Where are you looking?
I like Spieth the most this week, which I know is going to be against what Colin has, but. I know he's the most expensive. I know Colin's going to be on DJ, and I think DJ and Spieth are really, really close. But watching Spieth, he's playing really well, and a lot of these stats are starting to be pretty strong. And one thing that I like is the green and regulation stats, and he's been just hitting so many greens. So in that regard, I'm bullish, but I'm ready to get ripped a new one by Colin, who I think is going to vehemently disagree.
Oh, man, are you ready for the plot twist? I also have Jordan Spieth as the top-rated golfer this week.
Yeah, his recent form is just too good.
Wow. No, it's not even necessary. I don't think it's Spieth, like, doing well. I mean, it is partly him doing well, but remember, DJ and Day missed the cut at Farmers. They both fell off a cliff there. I mean, it's not falling off a cliff, but it's like, I think that's the more interesting angle to navigate between these three. What do you do with DJ and Day, like, given their recent performance?
They were playing with Tiger, too, which, like, that's a whole subjective thing, too. But does that impact it at all? Like, huge crowds at the Farmers, which both those guys are used to. But playing with Tiger coming back, hitting some bad shots, like, it's kind of a weird thing. Day and Tiger are, like, really good friends, and there's definitely a weird vibe with that group.
Yeah, that's one of the best subjective, like, discount these results that I've heard. Because, like, if there's anything, it's everybody's golf stepdad coming back after, like, he went out for cigarettes 5 years ago and didn't come back. Yeah, that's a weird vibe. That being said, like, for Jason Day is coming out way worse out of his, like, layoff than his miscut than DJ. He has a lot lower volume too, so he's a lot more sensitive to these miscuts. So I have him rated, like, pretty low, actually.
Yeah.
Way lower than Rose, lower than Rahm, lower than Phil and Reed for sure. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that's actually right. With Jason Day, it was about this time a year ago where he was like 10-6. And we're all like, all right, he had a couple of rusty results. And then, like, you just get, like, he'll just, like, flip the go switch and just fire off a million birdies. And you're like, why did I ever doubt it the whole time? I think we've all been afraid of missing that. So I'm kind of struggling to figure out, like, is this drop off real? Will it affect ownership on the other side? Are people going to be off day relative to Spieth and Dustin Johnson that he's, like, that magnifies his ownership? I don't know. Like, I have Day, like, very similarly owned to Spieth and Johnson. I'll
take the under on that big time, personally.
They'll take Jason Day as low ownership?
Lowest of the three by maybe 5-10%.
Okay. Like, I think 5 is a fair line.
10% would be a huge stretch for sure, but
yeah, like, I would basically auto take him just to pivot if it was 10% lower and I had to fill out the lineup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have, like, I think Spieth barely edges DJ, probably on strength of course history alone, or just a little bit of course history. I think DJ has the better fit. I mean, I'm sure he's always set up for those par fives just fine. I have him really close, Spieth by a hair. Who do you like? Give me the line on ownership between Spieth and DJ.
I think it's going to be, like, pretty much the same. I mean, I feel like they're going to be really, really close. I know currently we have DJ a little higher, and he is cheaper, so in that regard, I would lean him. But, man, Spieth has been good, and he's been fantastic on par fives. Spieth is setting up well for the Masters right now. If you're looking at, like, the Masters odds, I mean, Spieth is under 8-1 now, which is substantially better than all the other guys. McIlroy's like 9.3, and then Day, DJ, and Matsuyama are all in, like, that 10-1 range. So the trend is definitely looking really good for Spieth, and maybe people are paying close attention to that. But yeah, at a Bombers course, I'd almost always lean DJ. So it's kind of a
it feels very coin flippy between the two. Maybe it's just
exactly. And I had no problem with DJ too missing the cut last week. Like, all his other results are so good. Like, I'm one round, especially with the Tiger thing. Like, I'm gonna discount that pretty big personally. And he played freaking awesome at the Abu Dhabi Golf Championship. He was fine at the Tournament of Champions, and I mean, the guy is just an absolute freak out there on the course. So I still love DJ, and I definitely prefer him and Spieth over Day, especially with what Day's going with the health and stuff. So
how is it? I was going to ask, like, is his back flaring up again? Was there any known? Like, I mean,
we don't know. I mean, he finished the tournament. We don't know. One thing that has been talked about just from watching the tournaments is he's changed his backswing to make it a little bit shorter to take some of the tension off his back. And there's a lot of speculation that he's worked so hard on his long game and the swing change, the mild swing change, that he hasn't spent as much time on his short game, which is, that makes sense to me. Like if he's working on a mild swing change, he's going to spend a lot of time on that. So that's the speculation on day. I don't know. I watched him putt too, and because I watched a good bit of him, Tiger, and DJ, and he got pretty unlucky on the greens. Remember one, he had like a short birdie, and it's very clear. You watched it on replay in slow motion, like the ball hit like a footprint and like just swerved off when it clearly shouldn't have. And there seemed to be a couple breaks like that didn't go his way, but definitely, I don't want to use the word negative energy, but there's something going on with Day that doesn't seem Jason Day-esque.
Okay.
And the back, who knows? The guy dealt with vertigo for the longest time. The guy, was really dealing with the back last year where he had to withdraw from some very lucrative tournaments. So clearly it was a huge deal. So it's tough. I really don't know how to deal with Jason Day right now. But in tournaments, he's definitely worth it, especially if you think he's going to be a lot lower owned. Just because, like Colin said, if he gets on fire, the guy can just really put it together. So we'll see.
All right, boys, let's make some picks. Pete, since you won last week, I'm putting you in third.
Okay, that's fine.
Colin, you want first or second?
All right, I'll go first. That's fine.
Sure. So I'll take the other one.
Spieth.
All right. So DJ, go for it, Pete.
I can't not take Day, even though it doesn't feel great. But
yeah,
I'll take Day, and then we have to go under 9K.
Under 9K.
Oh man,
I know it is. It's getting a little tricky here because there's all those guys right at 9K.
Man, the 3-hole today was brutal for this tournament. I'll go Patrick Reed.
I was gonna hate you if you didn't take that one. It's obvious.
Yeah, Reed is.
The odds don't suggest that. Kuchar actually.
Kuchar is
yeah. But I definitely prefer Reed in that spot. So.
And then next, Walker, JB, Webb, Simpson, and then I'm gonna go Woodland.
Oh, that was the next one. All right. Well, it's either as much as I want to go JB.
Take Jimmy Walker, bud. Just say you hate him and then take him.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. No, I'm gonna go with my new adopted hero, Martin Laird.
Right. I love that, dude.
I thought you were going to go Hadwin, but Martin Laird, I like it. Stay on brand.
No, I issued my challenge at the beginning here, so I'm going full William Wallace. I'm going to go the blue paint and
we'll do something friendly. I'll take Knox versus Laird, even though the connection's going to be tilted with me. I'll do that just for fun.
No. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get it. We have time. We have a whole month to figure out.
Yeah, hopefully we can find one where we both have conviction.
No, we're gonna do this right. There's no rush for action.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
All right, boys. Good stuff. Thank you guys for listening as always. Good luck this week if you're playing tournaments, cash games for the Pebble Beach. Pro-Am should be a good one to watch. It is officially NBA PGA only season. So definitely going to be a good couple months leading up to the Masters. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week.